That quarantine is very important in the war against the coronavirus disease is not in question. It is, however, the increasing apathy and fear of going into government facilities for the seclusion. Kenyans, from what they've seen others go through, as well as the demands imposed on them by the government, feel that these spaces meant to be safe havens are state-run detention centres. Our technology and innovation editor Dan Mwangi has more.
Buildings that have served as accommodation for learners in various parts of the country have found themselves hosting people who have been taken into quarantine in an effort to keep COVID-19 at bay. Many have tried their best to keep off the facilities, and not so much because of the fear of the disease, but because of the conditions and circumstances therein.
To our brothers and sisters in quarantine and isolation centers, we know what you are going through.
But this is a falsehood in the eyes of those who have been in the facilities. They believe that, had that been the case, there would have been more efforts towards making life better.
We share facilities like toilets, bathrooms. We go fetch food at the same place, okay? They serve our meals at the same place. The floor I'm staying right now, there's no water. There's no running water at the washrooms.
You are being treated as a slave. As a slave, not like a Kenyan citizen. We are just done like slaves awaiting for punishment in hell.
Some hoped that being a government facility, they would get nothing but the best. But they instead got anything but the best.
Garbage.
Further, and very critically, there is the cost factor.
Why were we not told from the word go?
One that has piled up distress on already hard-pressed Kenyans, bearing punctured pockets and echoing managers.
Kupimwa si wasiwasi, kupimwa watu wasema waogopa wakienda quarantine walipishwa pesa na watu hawana pesa.
Hata huyo mambo ya 28,000 hiyo huwezi pata hiyo. Anaweza kupeleka jela. Hata ndio maana unaona wenzetu huko wanatoroka. Unaona? Na pia sisi bado hiyo kiwezekana wenye mtu atatoroka, mtu tu anaenda na si ati nini. Juu hakuna do.
Promises have been made to lighten the load, but the fruit is not as tangible, according to those in quarantine.
In most cases, it is the quarantee who will bear the cost of quarantine. However, in cases of need and when it can be established need, the government is taking that on a case-by-case basis.
From arrests to inside the quarantine centers, these pictures are not just the reality for many. They also paint to the rest of the public exactly what happens after the pronouncements on podiums of power. They only do more to cultivate a sense of fear and stigma towards those they seek to keep safe. Amid the successes and failures in this trying season, the state has also succeeded in failing to fully secure public confidence on this front.
And we're trying to put in place mechanisms that, one, will remove stigma from the testing practice, and two, that will actually facilitate Kenyans who may not afford quarantine services to be able to undergo a social assessment and be able to get the care that they require.
Tumelala vizuri, pia chakula tumepewa vizuri, maji tumepewa vizuri, na hapa quarantine si ati ni jela, ni mahali watu wanakuja kuwekwa.
In its third progress report, the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on the COVID-19 situation in Kenya recommended that the current communication and messaging strategy employed by the Ministry of Health should be shifted from one that emphasizes criminality to one that emphasizes social responsibility and solidarity. But weeks into this situation and after uproar, the government has responded to one of the key aspects of the complaints.
The cost of targeting testing and quarantine and government quarantine facilities shall be met by the government. Kenyans should therefore forthwith not be afraid. Let me repeat that. Effective today, government quarantine facilities will be occupied by those told to do so by the Ministry of Health. Will be given that facility free of charge. This is to facilitate those who may feel that they do not want to go for testing because of the cost of quarantine.
Looking at this situation through the lenses of those who have been through government quarantine facilities, and the spectacles which we ought not to have seen but have witnessed beg the question, is this move, welcome as it is, coming in a bit late? Is the government now facing the uphill task of undoing the stigma that it contributed to creating by not acting sooner? The state now is nursing the sick while seeking to shoot down the invisible enemy. It also may need to nurse its own foot because it seems to have shot it inside the quarantine centers. Dan Mwangi, NTV.